Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Path of Exile 2 Skills. Today we're going to be looking at an interesting one, though. It's a skill, but it's not a skill that you can make. It's a skill that you have to have on your wand. So you need a wand specifically that has the ability on it already. In this particular case, it is Bone Blast. Bone Blast is an AoE physical duration and repeatable spell. It conjures a circle of ritual inscriptions, which is important, and we'll get back to this, that lasts for a short duration. When the duration ends, a spike of bones erupts from the enemies in the area, damaging them and potentially causing bleeding, with a 40% chance to inflict bleeding on hit. It is a physical damage spell, so armor break and things like that are definitely very good. It has a ritual radius of 1 meter and a ritual duration of 1 second. And if you quality it, which you can quality wand spells. How do you quality wand spells? Well, you use Arcanist Etchers. Arcanist Etchers are used specifically for qualitating the spell on the wand, or the staff, or the scepter. And you can essentially get it to a higher amount. Now, what is Bone Blast good for? Well, it's a single target ability. It has some really interesting effects, and we're going to talk about those here. So, first off, when you utilize it, it obviously puts an inscription on the ground, and that inscription on the ground is going to essentially affect any target which is inside of that inscription radius, dishing out damage to them. Let's take a look at what it does to a monster specifically. Now, I don't have this one set up for damage because it's not my main damage ability. I'm actually using it as a support skill, but let's take a look at it nonetheless. Let's see if I can find any monsters left. It says there's 44 monsters left in this map, so we should be able to find something. Alright, so here we go. So we have some monsters. Now I'm also using Repulsion, so I'm probably going to be pulling Repulsion as well. So let me turn off Repulsion just for right now on my Blasphemy. That way you can see what it actually does. So as you can see, it does damage to the targets. It has a delay before it activates, but you can cast it multiple times. So you can have multiple of them going at any given time, all applying damage to the targets at the same time, dishing out a pretty decent amount of physical damage. Now, I am set out for physical damage. So being set up for physical damage, I'm going to still get a pretty decent amount of physical hits here, or physical damage here, even though I'm not technically set up for overall damage of the ability. Now, other things that you can do with Bone Cage, which is interesting, is obviously you can set it up to have less skill effect duration. Less skill effect duration is actually good because it decreases the ritual time. So instead of the ritual taking 1.2 seconds, which is what it's currently taking right now, of 1, 2, like, now it is having a smaller ritual duration of only 0.78 seconds, which is nice. You can also use things like Concentrated Area, which can increase the damage, but also decreases the size of the ritual circle, right? So you get a smaller baby ritual circle. You could also use things like Magnified Area instead, which would go the other direction and would give you the ability to have a larger circle. There is also some really interesting ones, like, for example, you can use Burning Inscription, which supports any skill which is a runic inscription. As we talked about earlier with the ability, it does count as a runic inscription. And when you cast the ability with this particular effect on there, you can guarantee yourself Burning Ground. So if you're running an ability that requires Burning Ground, this is a very interesting way that you can potentially get Burning Ground for free anytime you want to, just by simply using the Burning Inscription on this particular ability. And what kind of abilities benefit from Burning Ground? Well, tons of abilities benefit from Burning Ground. In fact, if you take a look at the tree and you just type in a ground, you'll come across a lot of abilities that either make ground or benefit from the effect of ground. Like, for instance, Tornado absorbs the elemental damage of any type of ground. So utilizing this particular wand with Tornado could be an interesting way for you to get the Burning Ground for free. And then you could utilize maybe like the boots for the shocked ground and something else for the chilled ground, right? And you could have like all three damage types on the ground. Eye of Winter also utilizes ground types when you're using it, so you could very easily utilize this for different ground types. And it's a free skill that comes with your wand. It's not like it consumes a slot on your character, right? So you can potentially utilize that for whatever. Now, it also does bleeding. So bleeding is something that you would want like high physical damage for. So if you're going to set this up specifically for bleeding, you're going to want as high of a physical damage as you can possibly get. So probably things like Heft and Brutality and various other things that are going to give you like a massive amount of physical damage, since bleed is specifically physical, right? And when you utilize it on a target, a 40% chance is pretty high. So most of the time you're going to get the bleed almost right away. As you can see, I have the bleed on the target right away. And then I'm also getting, obviously, the ignited ground, which you could potentially utilize for various things. It's an interesting support ability. It's not my main ability for this particular character, but I do utilize it on occasion for various effects. As you can see, I am able to kill things with it. Regardless of the fact that it's not my main ability, I can definitely still utilize it. Now, scaling area of effect, a very large amount of area of effect could potentially make it into a much larger ability. And quite honestly, I can totally see that. So if you were to have, like, say, Magnified Area 2 in here, and then you also scaled area of effect, like various area of effect nodes, say, like, you got this one here that increases area of effect of attacks, and then you've got, like, this cluster down here, which increases area of effect of attacks. And they're all over the board in various places where you can increase the area of effect size. So increasing the size of it is obviously going to make it hit more monsters, which makes it more useful. It does have some downsides. The downsides are, of course, is that, well, it takes a while to activate, and sometimes the monsters don't stand still long enough to, well, actually get hit by it. On top of that, like, you can cast multiple versions, but every single version is delayed, so you don't really get enough effectiveness out of it, in my personal opinion, unless you're casting it multiple times underneath the same target in terms of damage output. So if you're trying to use it for bleed, you have to actually build it for damage. If you're trying to use it for support, there's a lot of ways you can potentially use it for support. You could use it to break armor. You could use it to remove armor break, which is another potential way. So if you're already breaking armor and you would like to remove armor break, you could always put the support in that causes it to remove armor break as well, which is also useful. Because it is physical damage, it also works for many things that physical damage work for. Like if you're trying to do bleeds, if you're trying to do poisons, poisons a lot of times is based on physical damage. Or if you're trying to obviously do ignites, you can add in the fire and you can cause that to be an effect as well. You can also grab extra damage as on here and cause it to do additional bonuses that way. So if you have like extra damage as fire, extra damage as lightning, extra damage as cold, extra damage as chaos, obviously those are also going to apply to the spell and add in more damage output. Overall, it's just a nice little spell that you can get for free with your wand. So when you're choosing the base type of your wand, whatever your wand is, you can potentially utilize it. If you're a physical character already, like if you're doing like a plant build or like any like bone cage, like I'm currently doing bone cage, or you're doing some of the other physical damage spells, it's just a very useful one that you can add into the mix for physical damage characters, giving you another tool to, obviously put out burning ground with, break armor with, remove armor break with, dish out damage with if you want to, apply bleeding, and so forth and so on. I find it to be a fun one. There's a lot of spell-based or wand or staff-based spells. Some of them are not really that amazing, if I'm being perfectly honest. This one I was actually impressed with, and I did feel like you could honestly make like an entire character around Bone Blast if you wanted to. If you want that to be your main ability, I think you could make it work. Obviously, you'd want a level 20 Bone Blast, and you would obviously want to get as many plus the skills as you can, because that's one of the problems. Oh yeah, Cody, that's how you feel about it? You don't like Bone Blast at all? What do you think about Bone Blast? What do you think? He said, I'll lick it. I think that's pretty much it for this particular ability. I think it's fun. Using it as a just simply free add-on is fine. Whether or not you want to build around it specifically is up to you, but it's a freebie. It comes with your wand. There's a lot of different wand choices that you can make, but as a physical character, you don't really have a lot of physical options for wands. There is some pretty good like 2 staff versions, like the Sigil is pretty good for staves, gives you damage bonus instead, like something that you can passively use to increase another spell. It also can be empowered. Yeah, mine is currently empowered right now. I believe it's from my passive on the Oracle, which is the Align Fates. So basically allows you to get a Visage that casts the spell, and when the spell is cast, you get an additional version. So it can be cast by the Visage as well. It's interesting. I think that's pretty much it. As always, I appreciate you guys and gals watching. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe button if you enjoy the content. And send some money for treats for Kubus. As you can see, he's bored out of his mind while I'm recording the videos. And keep watching.